authority sounds alarm bells over shortage of drug supplies for mental health patients.
Ghana Private Road Transport Union dissociates itself from 30% increase of transport fares announced by some members of the Coalition of Transport Operators.
Explosion of fuel tankers kills at least 17 people in Nigeria's southwestern Ogun State. Hello, good evening and welcome to News Hour. My name is Rahmatu Mahamud Jawando. We are live on Facebook at Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. We're also live on Ghana Television.
My name is Jonathan Thompson. Frimpong Manso brings you the sign language. In our first story, the Mental Health Authority has indicated that there is a shortage of drugs for mental health patients. Consequently, the Accra Psychiatric Hospital, Ankafor and Pantai are forced to source medicines from private pharmaceutical companies for mental health patients at a fee. The Chief Executive of the Mental Health Authority, Professor Akwesiosei, spoke to GBC News in an earlier interview.
Medicines we use to treat them, they're essential. A drug like olanzapine. Olanzapine is a drug we use to treat psychosis, and psychosis is a major mental disorder in which the person loses insight into what happened to him and loses touch with the reality. Such a person may be screaming, may be shouting, may not be himself at all. Psychosis and olanzapine. And there are different types of psychosis, schizophrenia and whatnot. So if you don't have it, then it makes the treatment for these conditions not exactly easy. You use money for other purposes, like feeding, to go and buy the drugs and sell to the patients as a cost recovery value. So whereas if the government were to give it to us, it would have been free or just as a small token fee. In this case, if you use money meant for something else to go and buy those drugs, then you have to recover the cost. So it comes to a cost to patients. That is one approach. The other thing is that we ask some pharmaceutical companies to bring their drugs, recover their costs to the patients. At least the patient is spared the inconvenience of going down to look for it and not getting it. And the third approach is that if all these methods I mentioned are not working, then you have to prescribe the drug for the patient to go and buy from the open market outside. And at the end of the day, it's not convenient. You can even not guarantee very much the kind of drug they're going to get from outside. Mental health care generally, funding for mental health care generally has been a challenge. Now with medication in particular, every year we require not less than about 28 million cedis worth of medications alone. Not less than 28 million cedis. But at best is that we will get about 5 million worth for 2 years. In other words, 2.5 million worth for a year. And even there, I must say we thank God, because not too long ago, for 7 good years, we're not getting medications at all. Mental health care is not getting the adequate funding required. It's not getting the funding. Other healthcare like general health conditions or social health, because we are not on any type of mental health insurance. And yet, if you're not getting the funding from the government, it becomes a problem. The bottom line is that the mental health levy, that the Mental Health Act, simply to be established. See patients on the streets everywhere, and they are not present. If you had this amount, this levy established, you didn't pick them from the streets and take care of them. So within 2-3 years of such a practice of the levy being there, you didn't see these patients on the streets. There are various approaches that the levy can be established. We can put even, let's say, 50% or 1 city, or pick 1 city or 50% from everybody's salary every month. 50% won't mean much to you, or 1 city won't mean much to you, provided you know what cost is going to be put for.
The Ghana Private Road Transport Union GPRTU has disassociated itself from the 30% increase in transport fares announced by some members of the Coalition of Transport Operators. The head of communication of the GPRTU, Mr. Abbas Moru, says the union is expected to conclude negotiations with the government on Monday, February 21, 2022, after which it will officially announce the new fares.
About 16 private transport operators came together, of which GPRTU is one of them. 3 out of us took it upon themselves and came out a press release that effective from today, they are going to increase lorry fares by 30%, of which yesterday they came out with a statement that nobody should take them serious, everybody should regard that statement, of which it has really worked today. We were with them, actually. We took one decision. We set up a committee which presented its report of 30% upward adjustment, of which we all agreed at the coalition meeting, and a word was given to us, those of us going to meet the government machinery, that when we get to the negotiating table, we are not going to come down less than 20%, of which when we met the government officials, that's exactly what we did. We were able to bargain up to 20. We decided not to reduce the 20. Government stood on its grounds on 10%, and we rejected that. Hence, we requested for a postponement to next week, of which we came back and informed them we have to reassemble ourselves again, the coalition, on Monday to take a final decision towards next week. Another negotiating table with government officials, just for them, 3 of them to come up with that thing. So nobody understood why they took that decision. I would say for their selfish interest. Because this very group, if you can recall, about 3 weeks ago, came out with 40% upward adjustment in fares. And we called them, we spoke to them, and they rescind their decision. These are the people who have again come out. Meanwhile, you don't have stations, you don't have membership. So you are just trying to throw that into the public eyes.
Still on the issues of fares, transport operators in the Upper West region say they have not increased their fares as announced by some transport operators. When GBC News visited the Wild Lorry station, executives of the transport union said though they are anxiously waiting for the increase, they will not do so until the Ghana Private Road Transport Union issues a directive. Sual Abdul Wahab reports.
Checks by GBC News revealed that transport operators are still charging the old fares. Officials of the Wild Hamlin Station 3 said they are waiting for a directive from the regional officers of the Ghana Private Road Transport Union.
No, we haven't increased yet. We get orders from the regional secretariat. They haven't given. We are telling them any moment from now we'll be increasing the fares.
Some drivers, however, told GBC News that the increase in transport fares has been long overdue.
Fuel have been increased for several times, but we haven't increased. And for now, that's what we're all relying on for the fuel, the low fare increment. Because for now, we know that the fuel cannot be decreased unless we also do what? We also increase the low fare. I think that's what will help us.
Passengers too said any increase in transport fares will overburden them and called on the government to absorb it. For GBC News, Salah Abdul Wahab. Wow.
Let's now move on to the Bono region, where some transport operators say they will increase the fares by 30% by tomorrow, Saturday, February 19th, 2022.
Sunyani, where currently I am positioned at the main taxi station here in the Bono regional capital. And I'm here mainly trying to find out what is happening with the fuel increases and the expected transport fare increases as well. But I've been talking to the drivers, and as at now, they are charging the old fares. According to them, they are yet to get a directive to start charging the new fares. And they are not very happy because according to them, fuel prices are sky high the way they see it, and it's a matter of urgency that they also switch to a new price that will cover their losses. So now let's hear it from the horse's own mouth about the concerns of the drivers. Tisia, Matisse, mu charge old fares now. What now? Tisia hina oje. Yeah, budget 3 cities here. Free who run here him for? You run fair free. Fair belly top. Did that ahina moje? Yeah, just 2 cities 40 pesos. Okay. It is who person the concern. The person the 3 cities. But when TV be am paying for her. Dabi. Yenya nsese kan then na wose mundi new prices no. You can give a jiba yam for yan kakra. But I think chira de yan TV dia. Ya dia pebeje omuto ebeje. So you get to idea. Only pay 2 munu. If you dey pay betum. 30% on kaya really 12%. But yeah the 12% in a better passengers no. This situation also affects passengers. And so I'm going to talk to a few passengers to find out what they also think about the situation. Because it's a normal idea. Okay. I said to Mukrasi and two. Now suddenly, almost on being KCR. Well, to me, about have a high. You're going to show me a no. So, yeah, now buying my.
Now, away from transport to the labor front, the University Teachers Association of Ghana says it is considering the plea to suspend its 5-week-long strike following a crunch meeting on Thursday with the Education Committee of Parliament. UTAG, however, denied claims it has suspended its industrial action as widely reported yesterday. Its national president, Professor Solomon Nunu, said the group will engage its executives to decide on their next line of action. He spoke earlier on Weekly Press Review on GBC News.
What's going to happen is that we are going to inform our members, and then the members can be able to take a decision. So the process starts with us calling a national executive committee meeting where the discussions will begin. Once we are able to reach a consensus, we also go back to our members and then give them the information. This meeting, we should be able to have it in the coming week. So within the period, we should be able to report to the public the state of affairs. So it's not that we are not respecting the court, but the judgment that was received, members have actually looked at it, and then we instructed our lawyer to go back to court and set it aside. The issues in court is between UTAG and the NLC, where the NLC has gone to court to speak from the court that our strike action should be declared as illegal. So this is what NLC has taken to court. Again, they also requested for an interlocutory injunction, which was granted. We waited for the order of the court to be given out. Once we saw it, we noted that the basis upon which the order was granted is problematic, and that's the reason why we have asked our lawyer to go back to court and set it aside and request for a review of that.
The world is once again celebrating radio as the mass media reaching the widest audience in the world. World Radio Day is a platform to educate people, provide information and promote freedom of expression across cultures. At an event in Accra organized by the Ghana Community Radio Network under the auspices of the UNESCO Ghana Country Office, participants from the various media looked at the theme, Radio and Trust. For Professor Kwame Karikari, a former Director General of the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation and a journalism and mass communication lecturer, radio remains the popular medium of mass communication. He said, given the multitude of information technology, people still refer to radio to authentic information from other sources. The Director General of GPC, Professor Amin Al-Hassan, spoke on the topic, building community and democratic culture, the role of trusted radio.
In the last couple of weeks, we've seen the state, the police, arresting a number of people on radio, television stations, but also on social media, and charging them with this law of publishing false news. That area is a complex area. The question of that law, the police's arrest of these people, and then the reasons why the police are arresting these people, they are all a very complex issue. But there's one element in that I think we should all advise ourselves about, and that is the importance, the absolute necessity for us in this business to be responsible to our audiences, to our communities. And I believe this is what trust, the theme of today, is all about.
If you really want the country to disintegrate, make policies that will discourage the expansion of radio. When recently I made a tour of all the border towns of the country, what struck me was the fact that Ghanaian radio signals across our border towns are now weak or dead. Largely they were carried by GBC, and after carrying an electricity bill of 26 million Ghana cedis, we have decided to shut most of them down. Basically, I want to stress on the fact that it's a national responsibility for us to acknowledge and sustain radio as an instrument of national development.
With money laundering undermining the legitimate private sector, the integrity of financial markets, creating loss of control of economic policy and economic distortion and instability, among others, member states of GPRTU are being empowered to strategically fight and address the root cause of money laundering and terrorism financing in the region. This was disclosed by the Intergovernmental Action Group Against Money Laundering in West Africa, GPRTU, at its 36th Technical Commission plenary and its 24th Ministerial Committee meeting held in Accra. Ofewadako has more.
Intergovernmental Action Group Against Money Laundering in West Africa, GPRTU's plenary was an assembly of experts, including representatives of member states, development partners and observers in the fight against money laundering and terrorist financing.
Thanks to your self-sacrifice and your determination, you were able to implement the action plan mutually agreed with the Joint Africa Middle East Group, which earns you an early exit from the monitoring process.
A key feature of the meeting was the consideration and approval of the follow-up reports of the mutual evaluation of member states' level of compliance with the Financial Action Task Force recommendations on anti-money laundering and counter-financing of terrorism. Member states who had gone through the mutual evaluation exercises were commended for their commitment. The Finance Minister, Mr. Ken Oforiatta, said that terrorism financing is gradually becoming a cause of concern within the African region, hence the need for member states to institute operational measures to help facilitate the mandate of GPRTU.
So when you begin to get signals of more grey listing, it emboldens the old dysfunctional system to put us into these very compromised positions as a region, and that's why it's important for us to move quickly.
The plenary meeting, which is underway, ends on February 19. It is one of JABE's statutory meetings which forms an integral part of efforts to ensure member states' compliance with anti-money laundering standards and foster regional peace, security, prosperity and integration in the ECOWAS region. For GBC News, Ofeyiwada Kong reporting.
At the just-ended Global Disability Summit co-hosted by Ghana and Norway, President Akufo-Addo said persons living with disability must be given the opportunity to participate and contribute to national development and also deserve to benefit from developmental interventions. The clarion call was for governments and organizations to commit to action by reducing inequalities and exclusion endured by persons with disability. A report by Sarah Ofori.
About 15% of the world's population are persons with disability. They are said to live on less than $2 a day, which further compromises on their rights to decent lives. They are also the most marginalized and have unequal access to social services. According to the United Nations, COVID-19 further widened the inequalities gap. The second Global Disability Summit, organized by the Global Disability Alliance, the UNFPA, and organizations of persons with disability worldwide, follows that of the 2018 summit held in London on the theme "Nothing About Us Without Us." It, among other things, mobilized new global and national commitments on disability. Over 4,000 participants, made up of world leaders, civil society, the private sector, the donor community, and persons with disabilities, joined Ghana and Norway, who are also co-chairs of the Sustainable Development Goals, to share experiences, ideas, and aspirations for more inclusion for people with disabilities. In his address, President Akufo-Addo said persons with disabilities make up a pool of talents which can be harnessed for economic growth.
Persons with disabilities must be given ample opportunities to participate in, contribute to, and benefit from development interventions. It makes moral, ethical, and economic sense to do so.
Norway's Prime Minister Jonas Gahr Støre disclosed that his country has developed a comprehensive strategy for disability inclusion.
We will pursue a more disability inclusive approach in priority areas such as global education, global health, and not least climate change. To get this right, we will strengthen our partnerships with persons with disabilities and their organizations. We will ensure that our efforts can be tracked and enhance data collection to provide better insight into the situation of persons with disabilities.
Solidarity messages from the UK, US, and the World Bank reiterated a call to action and change to remove all barriers infringing on the rights of persons with disability. Participants hope to mobilize efforts for the implementation of the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disability. The guiding principle for this year is "Leave no one behind," a call to action, a call for change. Sarah Ofori, GBC News, Accra.
Now, persons with disability are said to be the most marginalized in the world. On a daily basis, persons with disability face discrimination and exclusion from social services. And the impact of COVID-19 made these inequalities glaring. According to the UN, students with disability were left with assistive devices and technology for effective learning during the lockdown. Again, workers with disability were the first to lose their jobs and last to be hired. GBC News' Sarah Ofori engaged some persons with disability on the sidelines of the Global Disability Summit.
A daily struggle.
When I completed my education, I had wanted to become a nurse. But then I'm told that because I'm a deaf person, I might need a service of sign language interpreter.
they have faced some form of discrimination of a sort when they go to public places. Is it the same thing meted out to their children?
They are proud. They don't feel ashamed. I mean, they use their hands to communicate with me. They have not complained of any worries, any discriminations. I taught them how to finger spell the alphabet.
I am a person. Stambra, let me just say Stambra. And you know, every day talking is, if you want to buy something, you have to talk. If you want to ask, I'm going somewhere, I don't know the place, you have to ask somebody. So talking is everything. When you turn right, you have to talk. When you go front, you have to talk. When you go back, you have to talk. And you have to talk. So it's always hard.
So when we got married, I always tried to complete his sentences, and he hated it. So I had to stop. So you need patience for him to say what he wants to say. And WHO says we are legally blind, so we have low vision, and then the fact that we lack melanin, our skins are very susceptible to sunburn, so we are easily prone to skin cancers.
They see people with albinism to be cursed, and therefore people do not want to do anything with people with albinism. I do not have any problem with my first date, but just probably there is incompatibility issues, so we have to end it.
Did the parents agree, the family, were they receptive?
We did not even get to that stage.
Okay.
Yes, before.
All right.
But the other one was where there were those perceptions came in.
Okay.
Like we did not like people with albinism, and therefore we don't want our child to get married, or we don't want people with albinism in our family.
A swift and well-coordinated effort by the Ghana Police Service, the National Fire Service, National Disaster Management Organization, NADMO, with the support from a bystander, has helped to prevent a fuel tanker explosion at Asokwa near Kumasi in the Ashanti region. The incident involved a damaged and fully loaded petrol tanker.
The accident involved a fully loaded petrol tanker with registration number AW399514, which was returning to Kintampo in the Bono East region after loading fuel from the nearby bulk oil storage and transportation bus depot at Kasi. The tanker had parked at a bus stop near the interchange on the Asokwa Ofurikrum bypass. The acting Asokwa commander of the Ghana National Fire Service, ADO-1, Mr. Bernard Nyemi, narrated what caused the accident and how his team helped to save the situation.
What we did to make sure that no fire is created, to make sure that we use our medium to foam the gutters or the drain, so that the fuel that is passing through the drain to the other side, downside, no fire is catch there to the tanker here. So that is what we did to manage the situation.
The Asokwa District Police Commander, Chief Superintendent Christopher Usumpieni, noted that but for the swift response by his men, working in collaboration with other security officials around, a disaster could have struck the nation.
It was past 5 p.m. We were in the office when we had information that a tanker was spilling fuel close to the traffic light. So we rushed in here and realized that indeed the story was true. Inquiries revealed that the tanker that had developed fault was parked there, and a low bed that was carrying a bulldozer was also passing by, and it seems a car crossed one other, and the driver in charge of the bulldozer, the low bed, tried to also avoid the accident. In the process, the blade of the dozer hit the tanker, and the fuel started gushing out.
GBC News noticed that the rear of the fuel tanker had been cut and the fuel was still gushing out and splashing onto the highway even hours after the incident. Some concerned passersby were helping to reload the fuel into another tanker, while the security and firemen were on standby to ensure that the situation was brought under control. The accident led to a heavy vehicular congestion in and around the Asukwa interchange, making movement extremely difficult.
You're watching News Hour right here on GTV and on GBC News. We'll be right back with other segments of the news.
Hello, this is Business, brought to you by Quick Credit and MTN. My name is Esther Edu Ohumu. With just 49 days in 2022, the cedi has depreciated by 4.70% to the dollar. This trend, the president of the Ghana Union of Traders Association, Dr. Joseph Obeng, says can be addressed if government acquires at least 30% stake in multinational companies to check their annual repatriation of profits. Cedi is currently trading at 60 pesos to the dollar on the forex market after ending 2021 at 15 pesos. Analysts have predicted the cedi could trade at 7 cedis to the dollar by mid-year. The current performance of the local currency ranks it the second worst performing currency in Africa, with the Zambian kwacha taking the last position. Analysts have attributed the cedi's problem to upside risk to the economy, including high debt and interest payments, inadequate revenue and rising expenditure. However, the president of the Ghana Union of Traders Association, Dr. Joseph Obeng, blames the repatriation of profits by multinational companies to the drop in value to the benchmark, which has become a perennial challenge in every first quarter of the year.
I think we have to revisit our investment policy so that the juiciest part of the economy should be owned. Also by our very self, if even we cannot own it all. You see the Chinese malls and all that, almost every Ghanaian is buying from them now. So when they are going for their holiday in early January, when they take their chunk of their resources, their monies, and they are repatriating them, it's a huge sum of money that is going and leaving the shores of Ghana.
Dr. Joseph Obeng said the association, in collaboration with other government institutions, such as the Ghana Export Promotional Authority, has initiated the Income In, Income Out policy. This initiative, when fully implemented, would require the importing community to also export goods needed in the sub-region and beyond in order to promote exports and rake in more foreign exchange.
We are yet to sit down with the Ghana Export Promotion Authority to know how they can also give us information as to exportable products to the destinations that they require. We don't have all this information because we are not primarily exporters. Because we don't have any option than to help the government export more so that we can have the same for us to do our trading.
Dr. Obeng also urged government to take a second look at other untouched areas of repatriation, such as churches that have branches across the globe, and fashion out policies to ensure that perennial repatriation of dollars to their mother churches are put to a halt. Also high on the solutions to the depreciation of the cedi to the dollar and other major trading currencies are accelerating industrialization and reviving the Tema oil refinery tour to cut down the oil import bill, which stood at $1.2 billion in 2019. A memorandum of understanding has been signed between the African Continental Free Trade Area Secretariat and the World Customs Organization, aimed at operationalizing the tariff schedules and ensuring additional free and efficient movement of goods in Africa.
The AFCFTA Secretariat and the World Customs Organization are united in their shared goal of increasing prosperity in Africa through the liberalization of trade on the continent. The MOU represents the next logical steps for the two organizations as they work to reduce barriers to trade across Africa by connecting customs systems, populating the AFCFTA tariff book, and providing capacity building for customs officials and administration. The collaboration is set to capacitate the AFCFTA with technological systems that would allow standardization of data and connectivity of customs systems. A developed AFCFTA e-tariff book, enhanced skills and expertise of customs officials in operationalizing the AFCFTA. The agreement will allow the two organizations to work together and support each other as they address logistical challenges whilst seeking to implement programs and develop trade across Africa. AFCFTA is the world's largest free trade area since the formulation of the World Trade Organization. It aims to bring together all 55 member states of the African Union
covering a market of more than 1.2 billion people, including growing middle class and a combined gross domestic product of $2.6 trillion.
Let's have the interbank and commodity figures for the day. The business news was brought to you by Quick Credit and MTN. Thanks for watching. Hello, good evening. This is the Energy segment on News Hour. My name is Mabel Anna. To our first story, as part of plans to decommission Ghana's first oil field, Salt Pond oil field in the central region, the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation, GNPC, has started a series of engagements to inform, educate and solicit feedback from stakeholders.
At a public meeting organized at Mankesim and attended by the chiefs, MP, MC and key stakeholders of Fantaman, the chief of Kuntu Nana Kwesi Brembo III called for support for the planned decommissioning and urged GNPC to conduct decommissioning activities in an environmentally friendly manner whilst minimizing the impact of the fisher folks who depend on the sea for their livelihoods. Participants at the meeting advised GNPC to regularly engage the key stakeholders at every stage of the decommissioning to reduce suspicion and tension. The General Manager for Sustainability and Stakeholder Relations at GNPC, Dr. Kwame Ba Nuako, said the corporation is engaging stakeholders and assuring them that it is a law-abiding and socially responsible entity. He promised the engagement would continue in the coming weeks to save the country from any potential disaster. Dr. Ba Nwako said the decommissioning project would be executed on behalf of GNPC by Hans & Co. Oil and Gas, a wholly owned Ghanaian oil and gas, engineering, construction and civil works company.
Let's move to the Western region, where the Electricity Company of Ghana, ECG, has paid 51,622 cedis as compensation for causing damage to properties belonging to 5 of its customers in the Western region. The payment was ordered by the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission, PURC, after receiving complaints from the affected customers.
The Public Utilities Regulatory Commission, PURC's office in the Western region has found the Electricity Company of Ghana, ECG, culpable for causing damage to properties belonging to 5 of its customers. The Commission thus ordered ECG to pay 51,622 cedis in compensation to the victims. In a social media post, the Commission states that a customer in the Sekendi Takoradi metropolis wrote to the Commission with a complaint of a burnt house. The Commission, as part of its complaint handling procedure, an investigation was launched. In its findings, the Commission established that ECG was responsible for high voltage that led to the destruction of the properties of the customers in the area on the said date. The Commission ordered that the customers who were affected be compensated, hence the payment.
This brings us to the end of the Energy News segment. My name is Mabel Anna. Health News is next.
On the health segment, an optometrist at the Upper East Regional Hospital in Bolgatanga, Dr. John Yaku, is cautioning residents in the region against using self-medication in the eye. At an eye screening exercise organized for over 1,000 residents in 7 communities in the Boku West districts of the Upper East region, Dr. Yaku said attempting to self-medicate has dire consequences.
The use of self-administered eye drops for ophthalmic conditions is a common practice in rural populations, and the Haven of Love Children's Foundation, a non-denominational Christian organization with a primary goal to create a conducive environment for disadvantaged children and vulnerable and marginalized communities, is collaborating with eye specialists from the Upper East Regional Hospital to screen residents in its host communities. The beneficiary communities received medicated glasses, eye drops, among others, while those with more severe conditions and needing further attention were referred to the Zebula District Hospital and the Regional Hospital in Bolgatanga respectively. Some of the eye diseases recorded were infective conjunctivitis, allergic conjunctivitis, refractive errors, glaucoma and cataracts. The Chief Executive of Haven of Love Children's Foundation, Mr. Samuel Bekai, said most of the health facilities in the communities do not have specialized eye services, making the outreach program very important. An optometrist at the Upper East Regional Hospital in Bolgatanga, Dr. John Nyako, said most of the cases recorded are caused by dust and exposure to the sun. He encouraged those referred to the Zebula District Hospital and the Regional Hospital in Bolgatanga to urgently follow up on treatment from the specialists. A beneficiary of the screening exercise, Madan Hamidu Hamiratu, was grateful to the foundation and its partners for the service. The various speakers at the exercise charged persons with any form of eye deficiency to consult an optometrist or an ophthalmologist, since many eye problems need an ophthalmologist's knowledge since they have years of clinical and surgical training.
That was a health segment. The foreign news is up next. Stay with us.